say you're recording. So who has, put your hand up if you have done the golden thread, you've done the training with me already. So I know Julia has, James, Annette, Lily. So you're just doing, it's just going to be revision for you. But for the ones that did it with me last year, maybe you, Lynn, James, it is going to be a little bit different because we've made it way quicker. Usually takes only about 5 or 10 minutes now, and we've taken out quite a few things that weren't necessary, and I'll tell you why we changed it. So if you jump on the platform, you can get the videos on the new process. Cool. All right, so for the people who basically are watching this, I know all of you guys know what it is, but regression is a technique that we use in hypnosis to basically find out the core or what's underneath of a problem the client comes in with. And I mean, this, you can use regression for absolutely anything. And I use it in a way that's really safe. So I tend to do regression on nearly every client that comes in the first session. Well, I do this technique with every client that comes in. It's very rare that a client is coming in to have a session with you and there's no actual emotion around what they want. Like even if they want smoking, they're usually frustrated that they can't stop. You know, for people that are coming for weight loss but they only want to lose 5 or 10 kilos, they're usually annoyed that they just can't shift the last little bit. Or, you know, if we go into the reasons why, you know, they're coming in for such a small amount, they might end up saying they're feeling really disappointed that, you know, that they just can't be where they want to be. And then we find out there's a lot more to it underneath, and that 5 or 10 kilos is just a symptom or something of what's going on underneath. So regression itself is using an altered state, we call it a state of trance, to relive an earlier age, time, place, and event. When we use regression, it's not for curiosity, it's usually to find out where, like I said, where something started. When you hear people talking about hypnoanalysis, you'll hear hypnoanalysis. It's what it's in Dave Elman's book a lot. Hypnoanalysis is going from today backwards. So hypnoanalysis is when they start from today and they use whatever method it is to go back to wherever it is they're wanting to go. So that's analysis. The therapy is done. So the hypnotherapy is done once we get back to the scene. So hypnoanalysis is the art of going back, and the therapy happens when we're back there. So I'm really, oh, I'll just see. Oh yeah, that's right. So some real massively important things about regression that needs to be understood is that memories could be real or they may not be real, and we're never going to know. And most likely what they actually see is a perception of what they thought happened at that time. So if you were to hypnotize 10 people, say for a crime or something like that, what you're going to find is each of those 10 people will give their perception of what happened, and you'd find a little thread of truth between them all. The way our mind works is, you know, we only physically see a certain amount of information that comes in, and what we see is what's important to us. Usually based on trauma, our mind's going to pick up things to keep us safe, and then also things that are, you know, in our perception. Say we drive, like me, I've got a silver Triton, you know, my mind's probably going to show a silver Triton drive past, you know, because it's part of my perception. So when we do work with memory, it's most likely a perception of the event, of what happened, and we're never going to know if it's real or not, and it doesn't matter. It's real to the client, 100% real to the client in the moment, and that's where I get into safety of regression, because when they're there in that moment at a physiological level, biological level, their body is experiencing that moment. So if they go back to a scene that's traumatic, their heart is going to be racing, you know. They're going to have a fear response. So in that moment, their body, even though we know they're in hypnosis, they know they're in the room, their body doesn't, and that's where we get into the you know, whether it's right to do it or not. There's so many different types of regression. You'll see if you watch people doing regression, people like me use an emotion to go back. You can put someone into a deeper trance and just ask the subconscious or superconscious mind to take you back to a scene. You can target a symptom, you know, ask the mind to go back to the very first time they started biting their nails or whatever, you know. So there's lots of different ways people do regression, and there's lots of different imaginative pictures you can use for regression as well. I know Freddie Jacqueline uses a time machine. When I first learnt regression, we used a time train of seeing people use a book, just flicking through a book back through time. I've seen a clock heaps of times. You've got the good old timeline, which I really like, and I use the idea of a time as well, you know, a line going back into the past, because it's really easy for us to understand. There's so many different techniques. Does anybody have any other ones that you've heard of? Yeah, that's pretty much the gist of us. When you're doing things like past life regression, there's always tunnels. Like you know, you go through a tunnel and step out, where are you? And I have seen that used for doing, you know, early childhood stuff. Of clouds, Dolores Cannon, for regression, she will get people to go onto a beach, stand on a cloud, drift up. There you go, I'm giving you a QHHT technique, put the person on the cloud, you know, and drift back through time and space to wherever they need to go to follow what they're dealing with. There's lots of different ways people view a scene in regression. So some people get them to watch the experience from above, so it's dissociated, and that's kind of a technique people will use for trauma. Some people will put people into like a movie theatre and get them to watch the past. It's dissociative again, up on a screen. For some people, they're there 100%. They're there 100%. And sometimes when you are doing regression, you can't choose if that's going to happen or not, because I've had people go back and the next minute I'm talking to a 5-year-old 100%. And when I did first start out doing regression, the old style where you went through scenes, I remember taking a lady back to being 4 or 5, and I didn't know a lot, and I know now that, you know, you really should be. I did do some training, but I definitely didn't do enough to be doing regression, that's for sure, safely. So I went back to a scene and she was 4 or 5, and I was trying to dissociate her from this, trying to get her out of the scene. And I said to this little girl, I want you to imagine now that you're drifting up out of the scene. And this little voice just said to me, well, I can't fly. Do you want me to climb on the roof because I'm only 4? And I was like, oh shit, what am I going to do? So I can't even remember what I did, but you know, you do what you do and you get out of the situation. You always do. You don't leave someone stuck there. I honestly, it was so many years ago, but I had all these when I first started hypnotherapy, because like I said, my training was really limited compared to what you can get now on YouTube and, you know, all these incredible people that you can do trainings with. My training was so limited. So yeah, that was interesting. So I've had a lot of, I've made a lot of mistakes, and by making those mistakes, I can share with, you know, people that I train or you guys or whoever jumps on, and tell you exactly what not to do and why, because I've done it, definitely done it. So yeah, so some people, when they go back to a scene, they're 100% there. They're more likely the people that are easy to hypnotize. I've got, she's already on the call, I won't say who it is. When she's gone back to a different lifetime, she's spoken to me with a completely different accent. I couldn't understand it. It was so strong. Yeah, and so that's really being in the moment. Very cool when it happens, doesn't happen very often. So that's basically what regression is. Any questions? Cool. I'll just go back on that as a disclaimer for people. I know that some people believe in stuff like past lives, some people don't. Doesn't matter. You know, it might be imagination. For me and my perception of reality, of course, it's real because I've had it happen so many times. But whatever a person goes back to in a scene, when the healing occurs, it doesn't matter what their mind brings forward. So if I do talk about past life regression and stuff like that, I'm talking about it in a way that it could be in a picture that the mind's created for the person to heal, or it could be a real thing. So why do we do regression? The mind tends to lock away events and times, and we're going to talk about this later, that have an impact on a client, that produce symptoms. And a lot of the time when you work with clients and they've got something going on and you ask them where it started, they don't really know. It's just always been there. You know, you deal with people with anxiety. I've had it since birth, and it's like, well, you know, you can have babies coming out with, you know, their brain a little bit different if mum's been living in a traumatic environment. But usually there is a space and time that it starts, and usually it's long forgotten and long hidden. And so basically the reason why we do regression is just to go back and find the core. You might hear there's people that call it core therapy. There's lots of different names for regression. But like I said, it's to find the initial event where everything started. In hypnotherapy, you'll hear people talking about the ISE. The ISE is the initial sensitizing event. It's the start. The reason why we do it is, and I'll talk about this later, what a corrective emotional experience is, but what we're doing is we're going back to that time and we're going to release the emotions or release the initial trauma of that event or whatever caused the mind to create that symptom. You know, our goal is to go back, understand it, clear it, which will make, once you do that, it's not it doesn't mean their life is going to be perfect, but for us, it helps us with our hypnotherapy a lot better. So if you were to clear the reasons why the body is holding on to weight using a regression technique, then when you do use normal hypnosis for weight loss, you know, telling them to have the 3 small meals a day, all of those kind of things, then of course it's going to stick because you don't have that part in them fighting, wanting to keep them safe with weight. And so it kind of helps with that. Yeah, there's so many reasons why people do regression. Some people, like if you were talking past life regression, people do it out of interest. Not often now. I think even with those kind of with that kind of therapy, people still do it with a goal in mind, that they're coming for a reason. The reasons are usually relationship stuff. I want to know why I have such a strong connection with this person, you know, all of that kind of stuff. There's usually something driving them in more than just curiosity. So yeah, that's why we tend to do regression. And like I said, it's you don't have to do regression with hypnotherapy. I do my style of regression pretty much with every client, like I said, but I work with trauma. It's just a technique there, especially if someone wasn't really wanting to delve into regression and that kind of work all the time. It's definitely something that you'd look at if everything else wasn't working. So say you were doing weight loss with a client, you're getting kind of little results, but they kept on drifting back to the same old eating patterns or something. You'd be looking and, okay, why? If they really, really want to lose weight, why is their mind, you know, keeping these patterns going once we've done, you know, all these different techniques? For me, when I have a really, really, really overweight person that's a severe diabetic on an injection and they're craving sugar, I sit there and think, why the hell is their mind drawing them towards something that's killing them when the role of the mind is to keep them alive? There's a real disconnect going on. And a lot of the time it doesn't stem from now, not something that strong, you know. It's usually not just a matter of let's stop sugar, let's do something little. There's usually something bigger at play because it's definitely killing them. You know, it's for me, it's serious business. So explaining what an ISE is, I thought this is something that I got from my training when I first trained. And to date, I haven't seen a better explanation of it. And when I did this with the Elmans, they said it was pretty good too. So this came from the guy that that used to run Hypnosis New Zealand, and I think it's a really good way of explaining it. So the initial sensitizing event is the light purple, if you guys could see that. Now, on top of that light purple, there's lots of different, the crosses are what we call events. And as you can see, those crosses get bigger, right? The big red one might be, so someone comes to you for a fear of flying, and when they were 20, they were in a plane and they had massive turbulence. And so they assume that the fear of flying came from the feeling they have of the fear of flying came from that turbulence. And what we would normally do in hypnosis is desensitize that event, right? So we'd take, I wish I knew how to do PowerPoint because I'd make it so the red disappears, but I'm not that good at computers. And I see other people that can do all this cool stuff on PowerPoint, so I have to learn. But, you know, if we worked with hypnotherapy on the plane, what would happen is we'd rip off that red squiggle. But what you find underneath is a residual of fear, just a little bit of fear of feeling coming up. And what you might find is that the fear of flying actually started really, really young. Maybe a baby wakes up in a cot, stands up and looks down for the first time and freaks out. You know, something as tiny, as innocent as that. And that starts to give a feeling, which then becomes a bigger feeling, and then becomes something big. And of course, the person's never going to remember that. You know, that's back when they're 1 or 2. So what we're looking for with, especially with the golden thread, is I'm looking for the real start of why the mind's doing something. When we're doing cognitive therapies, talking therapies, and a lot of hypnotherapy regression, if we're asking the subconscious to go back and the person is still quite conscious, we will tend to land on a big SSE, a subsequent event, a big SSE. And this is where the fear is of hitting major trauma. Because if someone that's had a form of abuse has a memory of abuse at 5 and knew something happened, and you had them in a trance and they were still, you know, we're all quite aware in trance consciously. You know, I don't think I've ever been in a trance yet where I'm totally 100% gone, unless it's doing a certain technique, and it's not very often, and it's only with 1 or 2 people where I can get there. So usually there is some form of conscious awareness going on. And so if you feel that all your problems in your life go back to this trauma at 5 and all the stuff that happened to you, then when you're doing normal regression and you're asking the subconscious to go back to the start, the chances of hitting what I call big T trauma, yuck stuff, is pretty high. And that's where, for me, I started getting into, I don't know if this is safe, because I deal with people with big trauma, stuff that you would never want anyone to experience again. So does that make sense? Yeah, any questions? So if you hear me talking, subsequent event is a secondary event after the initial one.
Yeah, Justine, I've got a question.
Yeah.
It's just around, it's Wayne here.
Yeah.
Like, are there times when it's not obvious that there's underlying trauma, and, you know, you think there might be trauma and you're not sure, but you kind of like don't want to say, oh, I think that's a trauma event, but to the client, it might not, you know, it might not be.
Yeah. So what I'll show you, and you'll be learning it in next month, Wayne, is I'll show you a way that, because people know when they come to see me, because it's very clear on my website that I'm going to clear, like, our job is to find out what shit's underneath. And I literally say it, you know, when people ask me what I do, I just say, look, I clear all the shit. Well, I don't do it, they do it. But we go through the background and find any of the stuff that's sitting there, and we work on that. We process that so that they can get where they want to go. But I wouldn't necessarily just say to someone, hey, I think there's trauma there. And what I'll show you is how we, instead of working with words and working, you know, is there trauma there? We're going to work on the feelings that come up when they're talking to us and use that as a guide. So we don't really have to have that conversation. Everyone has trauma. People say to me, I've had a great life, you know, my life was incredible. The trauma that we deal with using regression that's stored in the body is everyday stuff. It's mum and dad are fighting in the other room. I'm 2 years old and I think it's my fault. It can go back into the womb of feeling unloved quite often because we're dealing with those memories. We do have them. We don't have access to them, but they are there 100%. Everything we've experienced in our life, even back in the womb, it's there, you know, it's there somewhere stored, and we have access to that when we go into these spaces. So the stuff we tend to deal with, first day of school is huge, first day of kindy is huge, rejection. When I'm dealing with people over the age of, if it does tend to go into the future and it's older, it only goes back to 3 or 4 things. One is the death of a loved one without being able to say goodbye. 80% of my clients, I go back to that. You wouldn't believe how sudden someone disappearing without being able to resolve it, what that does in the brain. It is huge trauma, huge trauma, bigger than when I deal with people that have had a rape scene in a park or something. I don't normally go back to that kind of stuff. Usually when they're in that kind of scene, even if it's been very traumatic, a part of their brain will go, well, maybe I wasn't in the park, or I had a really bad feeling about that guy or girl, or, you know, some kind of emotional resource will kick in. The brain will start trying to analyze it. But when you've got someone suddenly die, can't say goodbye, that becomes usually an implicit memory stored in the body. Same with a sudden breakup with no thinking your life is suddenly perfect, and then boom, someone's relationship's over without any warning at all. It's got to have quite a good shock. What else? A cancer diagnosis. Those are the 3. And at the moment, I don't know why for my sake, I do kind of know why, but I'm working with heaps of cancer at the moment. Seems to be rampant. Yeah, so there's only kind of a few things in adult, teenagey places where we'd actually get this kind of like body stored trauma. It's usually going way back, and it's usually small stuff. So if someone rings up and says, oh, you know, I want to do the weight loss, but I haven't had any trauma, you know, my life was amazing. There's always stuff there. It's just not, people just have this idea of what trauma is as stuff that they see on TV, big stuff, you know, and we don't need to go through that to have trauma in our bodies. It's small stuff. So the biggest thing about regression and safety is, like I said before, I'm just going through these slides now because they're in front. There's a lot of chat about safety. You know, people are saying, well, why do regression when memories aren't real? And when you see the results before and after, and I've had insane results with people with severe mental illness, like we're talking a complete turnaround. And it's not all the time, and you don't know if that's going to happen, but when it happens, it's freaking amazing. You know, there is a place for it done safely. It's freaking amazing. But people are saying, so the biggest argument are memories are not real, so what's the point in doing it? You know, it's, and I think there is a big point in doing it in a safe way, because the change that happens, and I'll explain why later, in the brain, the change that happens is huge. We're talking a massive turnaround. It is proven that in hypnosis, your brain fires in a different way as if you were just remembering. When you are in a trance space, the body thinks it's happening, you know, and that's why when, you know, you see people and they get a heightened emotion, which is hypnosis, and they're thinking about how they've got to go on a plane flight next week, and they start shaking and they're really there, is because the heightened emotion is hypnosis. And so their mind believes you're already going on that plane, and that's when they're having that freak out. So we are in the same boat when we do regression with clients, for their body believes it's 100% real. And so that's where I get into that's kind of the way I learned hypnosis regression in a roundabout way was we take people through scenes and get the understanding at the end of that scene about the how and why, and how, and look over their life and the positive learnings and things like that, which is fine if it is a little event. But disclaimer, I'm just going to talk about something sensitive for a minute. In my immediate family, there's someone that's been through years and years and years of abuse from a very young age. And so for me, every technique I do now in the clinic, I ask myself, and there is a reason, because I did do a technique with her thinking I could be helpful 3 or 4 or 5 years ago, and it wasn't. It actually gave her nightmares, and that's when I thought, fuck, you know, this people shouldn't be doing this. And that's why I'm so fiercely with HNZ about somehow getting it so that hypnosis, there can be some kind of boundaries around it, because it is a dangerous technique for people that don't know what they're doing if they jump into trauma with people, you know, or get people to relive events that are extremely traumatic. There's a chance of them bringing that trauma back even more, which, man, that's not our job. What is it? Do no harm or something like that. So yeah, I learned in a way where you take people through scenes, you know, and get the learnings from it. And the way I see it is, yeah, when you're in a really good space, you can look back at an event that happened that's really terrible and go, well, you know, maybe if that didn't happen, I wouldn't be where I am today. But to be able to do that, you've got to be in a really good space. And when clients are coming on trauma, I don't believe they're there. And I don't believe it's right to take people, and this is personal, through a scene of being raped and things like that to get the understanding from it. You know what I mean? Even dissociated, looking down on it, to me, it's a hell no. And HeartMath has proven 100% that when they're looking down on that event, their body is re-experiencing that event. And so for me, doing that is just a no way. So if you do hear me talking at conferences and stuff, like I'm fiercely into now, don't even go, you know, don't go there. But there is a way to utilize regression without having to do that. We don't have to do that. Getting an understanding from an event, we don't have to do that to get a really good result. Yeah. Does anyone have anything they want to say about that?
Justine, so the 2 techniques that I've experienced is Dawn's technique that she teaches, and that's where I trained. I also experienced Dolores Cannon's quantum healing hypnosis therapy. That was actually my first experience. The difference is, although they both connect you with your higher consciousness or higher self, superconscious, however you want to term it. In my experience, my higher self will only take me to what is going to serve me and what I need to see. And I'm just curious as to where you're coming from, that regression can take you into sort of more of a seeing something that's actually not going to be serving. So I'm interested as to. So that what I would never want to create that.
So your protocols you're talking about are different. So past life regression, using superconscious QHHT.
Yeah.
You're not going to be stumbling across stuff from this lifetime. For one, people that do that. And people that go in to have a past life regression or to have a quantum healing session go in with their reality is that there's past lives, right? And so their mind, and I believe 100% that superconscious is going to look after us. Their mind is going to take them to lifetimes and events, and it's experienced in a completely different way, because it's not this lifetime, it's not this reality, it's not the trauma of, from what I can see and understand, the trauma is not sitting in the body in a way where our mind is out there searching right now, keeping us safe because of that trauma. It's a little bit different. So if we were to have a conversation about past life regression and QHHT is different. than what I'm talking with this kind of regression. So this kind of regression I'm talking about is really this lifetime childhood stuff, abuse stuff. And like I said, I'm going to show you a way where you won't, probably 1 in a couple of 100 people might go to the start of trauma, but we won't move through it using these kind of techniques.
Thanks.
But yeah, I still, you know, I love super conscious and stuff like that. But even if I called on super conscious, I wouldn't let someone watch themselves going through abuse as a child, just because it's for the body at that time. It's real, you know, and they don't need, you don't need to see that to clear the emotion. Or I mean, we're not clearing the event, we're clearing the way the body responds to stuff. Yeah, so it's just not worth it. But what you're talking about, Lily, is something completely different again. Yeah,
Cool.
Yep, totally different. And Dawn's amazing. She would have taught techniques on how to work with that kind of stuff. And you know, if people are interested in learning past life regression, I can give you a lady's number. That's also something that you wouldn't do without training. And I'll give you a reason why really quickly. Before I trained in hypnotherapy, I was fascinated and all of that kind of stuff. And my first experience was I bought a Udemy course for $19 and I got a script and I thought, oh yeah, you know, didn't have any safety in it. And I sat down with a friend of mine and we did it. And she went back to a scene. She was standing at this house. She was feeling lonely and sad. It had big, long wheat everywhere. And I didn't really know how to take her through scenes. It didn't have any guidance. I was thinking that I was really cool. She is really cool. This is a long time ago. Holy shit, this is actually happening. And then I think someone came to the door and she opened her eyes and I opened my eyes. We had a bit of a laugh, but she got massive hay fever. So she came back with an allergy so bad that she had to go to the doctors and be on medication for it. So, and I didn't know how to clear that. She never had it before. She got it that day. She started sneezing. She got watery eyes. She was sick. You know, whatever you believe, that was my lesson. Don't mess with this shit until you know what you're doing. And to this day, you know, I've done some more hypnosis on her for weight loss and stuff and that thing. But that was something I just backed out on. And that was my real push to, one, there's more to this stuff. And two, oh my God. Can you imagine if you took someone to a scene and didn't know how to get them back? Oh my God, yeah. So that's why I'm real big on, you need to have education. You need to know how to get out of situations. And like I said, that situation can happen to anyone because whether you believe it or not, the mind can create a story. A mind could go back into a scene of something they watched on TV and play it out as a healing process, but halfway through you get a bit stuck. You know, gotta be so careful. Yeah, and then my biggest thing with regression is I know the results you get when you can work and find, you know, when the body decided to start doing something, you can get crazy results. You can get incredible results. And in my head is, I want to be able to do this on the person in my family, but there's no way in how, but I don't want to get stuck in a situation where I'm taking her through trauma, and there's no way in hell I'll ever do that either. So that's when my head started processing, okay, how can we do regression in a way that we're not going to hit trauma? And even if we did, how can we clear the experience or clear the feeling of the trauma without having to experience it? And so that was me deep diving into okay, what's happening in the brain, you know? So it kind of pushed me in to get deeper and deeper into how we can do the work. And so this is where we get into different stuff in the body. I'll just stop there. Any questions?
Justine,
Yes.
Carl Smith, you know him, yeah. Now, from listening to what you say and what he does, it would appear to me that he has absolutely no safety by taking people within this current life to empty out all of their shit, as he calls it. He doesn't assist them. He leaves them there in peace and quiet to bring up all the mean and nasty stuff that's happened in their lives. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and that's what I call a clearance style protocol. And what you'll find, and that's because I do a clearance style protocol and I teach it, where you go in and you have pictures up on a wall and you bring down the pictures, of the stuff that's happened to you. That's where protection kind of comes in. Your mind generally only puts up what you can deal with. And usually it's not going through scenes. Usually the mind will go, oh, that guy hurt me, I'll clear him. I remember this time I was 5, I'll clear that. It's not actually them reliving the scene with you, saying, well, what happened next? Oh, he came into my room. What happened next? Oh, he's doing this. Do you know what I mean? So that to me is not regression. That's a completely different process. And it is a good process going through and doing clear outs. And generally, the reason why that they are a good process is because, and I'll give you a good example. If a client comes in and believes that the reason why they're doing what they're doing is because of the stuff that happened to me, then you do need to give them a space to clear out the reasons why they think something happened to them. And it might not be the reason. For me, it's usually too straightforward. Like, I'm scared of planes because this one time I got a bit of, it was a bit bumpy, But if you don't address the things that they believe are causing it, then there is a chance of not getting very good results, because their mind's decided this is why it is. I'll give you an example of I'm talking about past life again. I'll give you an example about a client last week, one of my hardest clients I've ever had. She did sessions with another lady, ended up coming to me because the other lady was like, I just can't work with her. I just can't work with her. She's difficult. And when she came in with me, I was like, oh my God, she's so difficult. I never have difficult, but this lady was like so freaking difficult, for me all the way, for everything. And I was, God, and I don't ever get this. People just come in and things happen. And then I said to her, look, just why do you think this is happening? She goes, because I know I was stuck in a past life. And I was like, oh, fine, then close your eyes. Go back. I didn't do an induction. I'm like, close your eyes, go back to wherever it is that happened. And in a second, she was in this thing. She was telling what happened. We cleared whatever it was. She opened her eyes. And I sat there thinking, well, there's no way how that's going to help her. Because she was coming for eating and like, weight loss stuff and motivation to exercise. And I'm like, nah. And then I see her the next week and everything had sorted out. Like everything that she wanted, she was doing. And I said, well, how can I help you? She goes, oh, that was really cool last week. Can we do that again and go somewhere else? And I'm like, oh, I didn't even have a script or anything to go there. It was literally, what's going on, close your eyes, go back to wherever it is that that needs sorted. So I didn't even do an induction. And because I did that session within her realm of what her belief is, what the problem was, everything sorted out itself. And that's where we come back to that whole idea of we're not actually doing the healing. We're talking, we're facilitating a space. And I know that our energy has got a lot to do with it and our confidence and stuff. But at the end of the day, the healing happens in the client's mind. It's the client's mind sorting it all out. And we have to fit it within the realm of what the client wants. And if you do that, then you're going to get those changes, if you get what I mean. So let's talk. Does that help, John? Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Thank you. I've been watching this guy and I've been wondering whether he's a good, bad, or indifferent.
Good. I haven't watched a lot of his stuff, but I've heard good stuff. Yeah.
Great.
And what you need to do is when you watch everybody, it's just go for your gut feeling. If you like something, if you don't like something. Like I bought this really good program the other day, and a lot of it is really, I love a lot of the stuff. But then at one point, the guy said that there's no place for medications and mental illness, and stuff. And because I know I work with real serious mental illness, and I've done training on the brain and what's going on there. There is a place for medication, you know, and so for me it lost a bit of credibility because, hey, you know, we need to work alongside other, you know, psychiatrists. We need to have a good relationship with them. But I just took that and thought, okay, that's his belief. I'll let that to the side. But a lot of the other stuff that he had was excellent, really, really cool stuff. I'd recommend this course minus the kind of hard views. Yeah, so let's talk about memory reconciliation. So we've got different kinds of memories, right? So we've got what I call explicit memories. These are ones that we can remember. And it's not just remembering very clearly. It's if someone gave you a photo of a car that when you were young, your parents had this car, you don't remember the car, but you see a photo of it and you can remember it. So these are memories that you can access. They are accessible. Sometimes it takes a little bit to get there, but they're there, you know? They're stored in a certain part of our brain. They're put in the past. Our mind sees them as in the past. So those are what I call the explicit memories. Then we've got implicit memories, which are what I love working with. And these are memories that we don't remember. We don't have access to them. So these are ones that we don't tend to tackle or touch if we're doing cognitive work with people. And also when we're doing work, even with the subconscious, if the conscious mind is still kind of aware. You know, these memories are usually hidden down in the nervous system, and I'll explain how they get there. And they usually need a trigger to come forward. And with the trigger, the response is usually a response in the body, like a feeling like anxiety, a sore stomach, you walk in the room and you feel like, oh, I don't want to be here, but I don't know why. Their body response memories. Does that make sense? So these memories are usually triggered. The mind senses something from the past and you get a feeling or a response. Tears, watch a movie, it's all sweet as something happens and you burst out crying. You don't know why. And you think back, no one's died. I get that. Why am I crying? This is really freaking weird, you know. These are the memories that are stored. They live in our nervous system. They live at a feeling level at the body. And from what I've found doing hypnotherapy, these are the ones that tend to cause all the problems. And I'll get into it later again. Why? They tend to cause the things that people come in with that they really can't change. Any questions about that? Implicit, explicit memories. Yeah. Now, how do they happen? I'm just having a look at what I've written here. Okay, so we've got an arousal cycle. When we have a heightened emotion, right, and it can be getting a fright, getting angry, someone's annoying us, we're, in the car and people are pissing us off because we're late. We have a heightened emotion. It alerts our nervous system and we kind of get fired up. I'm going to stop share for a second. Oh no, wait. You guys, can you still see me as well? Up the top of the screen. So basically, we get fired up and a system kicks in. When we get fired up, we get kind of aroused in not in a dodgy way, that's such a funny word. We get a heightened, when we get to that peak, our nervous system kicks in with the fight-flight response. We either understand the situation, the situation dies down, we use our resources to get away. We do whatever we need to do for that event to clear. We come back to neutral again, and then that memory is stored in our mind and put in the past. That's a normal arousal cycle, right? Does that make sense? So we get fired up, our nervous system kicks in, we either, fight, flight, understand the situation, have a bit of an argument, we do whatever happens, and then that memory then gets stored in our past. We go about our day, we might still be angry about it. We know we just had an argument. It's still fresh, but it was at 10 o'clock this morning, you know, and we tend to wind down and go about our day. Does that make sense? That's our normal process. So if you can take a photo of these if you want to, it will go up. So that's our normal arousal cycle. It's in bigger words there. It talks about the memory is then processed and put in our associative memory networks, which then is put timestamped and put in our past. But I'm not going to talk in that language. What happens with trauma? I haven't even talked about what trauma is anyway. But trauma is born when the arousal cycle is interrupted and not completed. Basically, you can't run away from the situation. You can't fight the situation. You can't get your head around why it's happening or what's going on. You don't have the resources in your environment, either in your mind to understand, or externally, you don't have a knife to fight someone off. So you don't have any other resources. They're just not there. So your body goes into this hyperarousal state. Once it's in that state, you know, this is where people can either faint or freeze. You know, these situations have people, when it's in severe trauma, dissociate, so they're not in their bodies anymore. And when this happens, we still have to go about our day. So when this finishes, our arousal cycle still completes, but it crashes the system. And when it crashes the system, that memory, instead of it being processed in a normal way, the trauma is too big. It can't. There's a part of the brain called the corpus callosum, I think it's called, if you pronounce it properly, where the memory has to go through that space to be processed and put in the past. And when you're in a situation where there's complete hyperarousal, it doesn't make it through. So the memory then gets stuck in the limbic system, the emotion system, and the brainstem, which is the, you know, the amygdala, all those areas. It gets stuck there, and also it can get pushed down into our nervous system. So the memory then becomes one, implicit, it's gone. You don't remember the event, and then it's stored in our bodies. And like I said, it quite often happens when we're young. And the reason why it happens when we're young is because we don't have the emotional resources to understand what's going on in our life when we're a little kid. And that's why it can be such little things like mum and dad are fighting, they're here fighting for the first time. They can't run away from the situation, they can't fight the situation. They don't understand what this yelling is. That's why when we're working with implicit memories, it tends to go back quite young. Or waking up for the first time in a cot in the dark and no one's around. You know, can't fight the situation, can't run away from it, don't understand why you're there in the dark and alone, you know. So we tend to go back to, and with these implicit memories, we tend to go back to under 7. I sometimes go back to times as a teenager where girls get body awareness for the first time. They look at themselves and look at others and go, hey, I'm bigger than them, but there's nothing wrong with me, what's going on? So I go back to that quite a bit for weight loss, where they just can't get their head around why they're different, or someone teases them and then they suddenly get that realization that, hey, is there something wrong with me? You know, just moments like that. As adults, like I said, when someone dies suddenly and you don't get to say goodbye, can't run away from the problem, can't fight the problem, we can't complete that cycle because you can't say goodbye. So when you learn the golden thread, there is a process for grief where we can switch that trauma off by going back and actually having that conversation. It's beautiful, can explain what's happening in the brain when you do it, but it does complete that cycle. So the grief, the feeling around that drifts away. It's the most beautiful session you'll ever have when you do those ones. I do it a lot. So that's kind of how the trauma happens. And I'll just go back because I forgot to do this one. What is trauma really quickly? No. So when we're talking about trauma is not an event. It's the way your body responds to an event. So 2 people can be in a car crash. One person might never hop in a car again, whereas the other person doesn't give a shit. So trauma is not the event itself, it's the way the body responds, it's the overwhelm that happens to that person in that response. It's usually tied up with our resilience, you know, what's happened beforehand to how our body responds in an event. And the trauma response that happens affects us in different ways. Physical, as we know, it can cause pain, weight, mental illness, so many different things. Trauma can show itself in lots of different ways. For people, social anxiety, you name it, nail biting, yeah. So it's not an event, it's the way our body responds to an event. I heard this really cool thing that's about, I think it was, I can't remember the words. Naronga, you might remember it. It was something like, there's PTSD, the post-traumatic stress disorder, and then we called it another thing, which was when someone goes through a really traumatic event, but it makes it better. What was that?
PTSD, post-traumatic, no, what is
Growth?
it? Yeah, growth. PTSD.
Post-traumatic growth, which is there's people that go through a very traumatic event, but it actually changes them and puts them on a positive path. And I've experienced that where I had a really traumatic event, and yeah, I did have trauma from it, but the change I've had in the last 3 years from that event is incredible. You know, so when I look back now at that event, I think I'm kind of glad that happened because I wouldn't be where I am now, kind of thing. So whereas someone else might be the opposite. So that's where I'm saying people experience things in such different ways. Now, if we any questions on that? So if we go back to this arousal cycle, I'm going to get into this more because this is so freaking cool. So say you are, this is like, so every client that comes to see me, they get this little lecture, because I think if you understand this, your life is going to be so much better. It's going to be so much better if you can understand what's happening in the mind when you do stuff every day. So basically, you know, we have the normal one, we're fired up, we get through the scene, the parasympathetic, it kicks in, you go back to normal, the memory goes in the past, you pissed off about it, but you can remember it. Then you've got the other kind of time when you get fired up, but you can't run away from the situation, you can't fight the situation, you don't have the emotional resources. What happens at that moment is it's trauma. So your body knows you're in a complete danger. So your mind comes out and scans the scene, right? So it's scanning the scene and everything around you becomes a trigger to that moment. And it could be a cat, fear of cats in the future. It could be in my room, I've got books, computers, I've got this big window. It could be the color of someone's clothes. Your mind will come out and decide what things in your area are causing that threat, and they will then become a trigger for you, right? And then that memory is sent down into our nervous system, and it seems to present in one place in the body. So we can generally target where it's sitting. So it might be a heaviness in the heart, a sick feeling in the stomach, a rock in the solar plexus, a choking feeling in the throat. It tends to, the signal that comes from that event tends to become a feeling in the body, a pain in the back, sore, heavy knees. I've had someone with a burning ear before. We don't know where that trauma will present itself, but it usually comes back with a feeling. Then you end up moving on from that, because of course, unless you die, you know, you keep on going through your day. So the memory is stored in your nervous system and you keep on going through the day, but you have a new feeling in your body. And that feeling could start quite small as a child. It could be a small feeling of fear. But every time your mind sees one of those triggers, that feeling comes through, right? So, oh, there's your heart beating and you don't know why. You might have gone into a cafe and someone's wearing the same color shirt and you start to have anxiety and you don't know why. You have no idea why, because it's an implicit memory. There's no memory of what caused it, especially when it's really young. So here we go. We have someone starting to get social anxiety. Now, every time that feeling comes through, the brain is like, oh my God, there's there's trauma here, I've got to keep safe, and it comes out and scans the room again and puts new triggers on. And it could be a cafe. Now I can't go into cafes. You know, we don't know what the triggers are. And that's why when we work with people coming in with fears or phobias, I totally work on the feeling first, because I know that most of the time that thing that they're scared of is just be part of this cycle. So if you just target that thing, you'll probably clear that thing with hypnosis, but it's not helping the big picture. You know, you're just working on that one symptom. So over time, this feeling expands and gets bigger and bigger. And we have a lot of these implicit memories in our bodies. We've got lots. I've cleared shitloads, and there's still more, you know, and we joke about it, because when you're a hypnotherapist and when you've trained in this, you know, when they come up now and you're like, fuck, how many are there? You know, this never ends, you know, and the more you're aware of them, the more you know they're there. And there's people walking through life without any awareness of what's going on. And so for us, it seems a little bit harder, even because we're aware of what's going on in our body and just the layers of it. But so when these feelings get too much, especially when we've got a lot of them, our nervous system, it's an overwhelm. Our body is going to present problems, and the problems will be weight, but it will be weight where you are healthy, you are eating right, you are doing the best that you can, but the weight's just not shifting. The body's decided, and this is what my body does. If I go through something, boom, the weight comes on, and I could be eating nothing. That's the way my body presents trauma. So there's weight, and then there's pain. So that's people coming in with back pain, migraines, fibro, but it's not the pain that I hurt my arm. You know, it's the pain that the doctors have, I've done everything, I'm on pain relief, I've been on pain relief for 10 years, the pain just won't go away. We're talking the stuck messages, you know, the back pain that's been around for 10 years and there's nothing wrong with my back. And man, do I have, I've got the coolest stories about working with ACC for pain. You know, crazy stories about where back pain goes back to, and it's totally unrelated to anything to do with the back. It's just the body's response. So it's all the pain stuff, it's all the weight stuff, and then it's the mind stuff. Anxiety, depression, OCC, dissociative disorders. You know, this overwhelm is going to cause these things to happen. So that's why I tend to, when people come in to see me, I tend to want to deep dive a little bit and find out what's causing this personality. And it even goes even deeper than this. And my students will know this because I talk about sliding all the time, because I find it freaking fascinating. This is the coolest thing ever, and it helps your life. So what sliding basically is, and I've even got a little thing which, no, I don't. Do I? Sliding is so cool, man. So, and I termed it sliding because I couldn't come up with a different name that explained it so well. So it's basically, who are we in those moments where we're really fired up and triggered, you know, where we've got this memory coming up in our body. So when we are triggered, when we are fired up, so you've gone into a room, this implicit memory is fired up, we've got this heavy heart, we start crying. And there's a book that explains it a little bit, what I read a long time ago. Basically, and it was by a neuroscientist, and she was talking about how when we are triggered, when we have these emotions come up, all the parts of us go back to the moment of the ISC where it was created. So because of that, our outburst or our reaction when we have this emotion come up is going to be like that of when we were young or wherever it started. So your body shape, your body, the way you hold yourself might change, your posture. You might be a really confident person, the feeling comes up and now you're slumped and you've got your head down. Your voice may change. And I see this with guys. A strong, confident guy goes around to the mother-in-law's house or the mum's house, gets triggered, and now we've got this little boy that won't talk very loud and he won't give eye contact and he's sulking off somewhere, you know, little kid. And I joke with my clients when I explain that, because it's easier to see in men than women, because we're quite erratic, our personalities. So we slide and change all the time anyway, whereas guys seem to be more consistent. So you can see sliding a lot clearer when you're working with guys, you can see the change from who they are to when they change into a boy. It's a lot more obvious than women. So all of these things can change. When I'm working with my clients, and I know that you guys that have been doing it for a while, you'll see a change in the eyes. You'll look in the eyes and go, I think I'm talking to a kid now, you know, because the way they talk is different, the way they hold themselves is different. This doesn't just happen with negative emotions, it happens with positive emotions. If you ask someone what their favorite food is, they'll light up and they'll go, yeah, it's Lily's, you know, and you'll see that change. And you know, at that moment, you're talking to a little kid, you know, they're all giggly. And I love going and buying myself chocolate. You know, it's a different personality coming through in that moment, a different part. So these parts that are coming through, they also have a line of memories tied up to that feeling, and they have habits and behaviors. So I've worked with alcoholics before, that when we actually, and they drank at night, and when they got home, maybe someone, especially women, someone's died and now they're at home at night drinking wine, that feeling comes up and then they go and drink. And so it's not actually them drinking, they don't want to, it's that part of them from a moment in the past. So you can have experiences, it doesn't happen always, but it happens a lot for me with people that emotionally eat. When we clear the implicit memory, when we clear the emotion, the part of them that was going and eating biscuits at nighttime doesn't exist anymore. And I'll explain how that happens in the brain. So they just don't emotionally eat anymore. They just don't, because the part of them that was driving to do that is gone. And you'll hear me say parts because we do parts therapy. This part is associated to the implicit memory. It's stuck in time in our body. So when I say stuck, the nervous system really is stuck in that moment. You hear people say they go through a trauma, their body believes they're still there and it's still searching for that trauma. So that part of that person is stuck in time. It's a stuck part in the brain. I see it as actually a stuck person in time that we go back and talk to. So that's kind of sliding. Now, the cool thing with us in sliding is, and I teach this to clients, is if we know about sliding, if we know that when we get hyped up, when we get annoyed, when someone triggers us, our response is going to be that of a younger one of us, then we have the ability to control it if we want to, because sometimes I don't want to. Sometimes I just want to be a shitty female that's angry, you know. But when you understand sliding, the easiest way to get out of that state is just to bring yourself back to now. You know, when you know, oh my God, I've got this feeling and now I feel like crying, and you have an understanding that, hey, this is not actually me, this is a part of me that from way back there, then you can go, well, actually bring yourself back into your body, mindfulness, rub your hands, feel your hands, and go and bring yourself back to now. Hey, that's not actually me. But take notice of where it is so that you can get someone to help you clear it, you know. So when you get a trigger, take notice of where it's sitting in the body, and then get one of your mates to slam it for you, because the more you clear, the more your mind is going to bring in good stuff. And I'll even talk about that now. I wasn't even going to talk about that. When you do have a lot of this trauma sitting in your body, your mind is using all of its energy and all of its space to keep you safe. You know, it's we can only see a certain amount of information per second. Our conscious will only pick up a certain amount of information per second based on what's going on in the inside. And if we have a lot of trauma, then what our mind is going to focus on is keeping us safe, and it's going to focus on the threats, the dangers. And it goes even deeper than that. Our mind will move us towards or focus on those dangers to keep us safe. So when we are in a heightened emotion, even our pupils get smaller. So they go smaller. So if you're scared of spiders and there's one in the corner, your pupils will go smaller and you'll watch that spider. I was doing it in my bedroom this morning because I don't like them. And there was one in the corner. So I know that it's there. Now our mind will focus on those threats and move us, our direction to it, so that we can move away from it. So how often do you hear people say, and clients say, I always get in the same relationship, no matter what guy I date, he always ends up being a cheater. Or it gets a bit more crazy when I have people coming and they say, oh, my nana died when I was 2, and then my dad died when I was 5, and they have that kind of situation, because my head is like, whoa, how do we know, that we're going to have that story? Or I have someone coming in going, no matter what job I do, they always steal my stuff and I end up having to leave. Or I always end up with a narcissistic boss. Or that's so common now. But, people come in with the same story. The same thing happened all the way through my life. And it's because the mind is scanning for threats and putting our focus on that. And we tend to always gravitate towards what's familiar to us too. So say if we were talking relationships, it was Valentine's Day. So if you were wanting to join a new relationship and you have trauma around relationships, your mind's actually going to point out the people that are probably not going to be good for you, because it will point them out as a danger. But you'll move towards that because it's familiar. Whereas Mr. Perfect might go past, and because it's not familiar to you, you might go, oh, I couldn't be with a guy like that, he's too nice, or I don't like how he's dressing, or I don't like his shoes. So you tend to draw on the same situation. Now, when we clear these implicit memories out of our bodies, when we start getting clearer, we're opening our mind up to looking for what we want. And that's where hypnotherapy comes in so much, and future pacing, getting people to really picture and understand what they want, because then the mind will draw you towards what you want. So when I was young, my parents, if they wanted a spa, they'd put a picture up on a spa on the fridge, and because they were really into positive thinking, thought creates reality. So very quickly we'd always get a spa, they get what they want. And now I understand that, if you had a thought, oh, I want a spa, but you didn't think about that again, you didn't put any energy in it, the chance of getting it is very small. But if you wanted a spa and you started looking at what kind you wanted and you put pictures up, then your mind goes, your spa becomes a part of your perception, and it starts scanning. And you might hear an ad saying 50% off spas, or you might drive past a spa shop that you never knew was there, because your mind's now scanning for spas. So if you're sitting in trauma, your mind is going to be working on keeping you safe. When you clear the trauma out, your mind is going to start working on what you want. So this is why regression is such a small part of your hypnosis session, because when you do clear emotions and clear trauma, you neutralize a person. You'll bring them back to a space of 0, if it was -5, +5, because then you have to direct them to where they want to go. To feel joy, they need to understand what that feels like. Do you know what I mean? So when you clear the stuff out of your body, you're more likely to bring people towards a future that they want. So that's, like I said, where all this hypnosis comes in. Putting new food plans in for people, getting them motivation to exercise. They're going to find that so much easier to do when we clear this stuff out. Any questions? I'm actually getting a dry throat from talking so much. Any questions? Comments? Okay. Does everyone understand what I mean by sliding?
Hey, Justine, can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Right. So what do you do when you're in a session, and especially with the golden thread, and you've got a client in, and when she comes in, she's coming for weight loss. She came in and she said she was abused. More specifically, she was raped when she was 5 years old by her uncle. And then she started crying, and of course I took her back and did the GT with her. And she went straight to that event, went into it.
Yeah.
And then I asked her, I said, so how is 5-year-old you feeling?
So, yeah, I'll talk about that because I'm not actually training the golden thread.
Oh,
but
sorry.
But when we
Right.
do, if I have a feeling, if someone had told me that that was that kind of event, then I know that there might be a bit of conscious intervention there. And so if I went followed the feeling back, the first question I would ask is the child safe? Yes or no? No. Okay, get them up out of the scene, and you would never look at that scene again.
Okay.
Wash it away, and then you'd work from a
Okay.
totally different space. If I have any gut feeling that that we might be in trauma, and definite, if someone says I'm overweight because I got raped when I was 5, the chances of you hitting that scene are quite high because their mind's already decided that's the reason.
Yeah.
And you have to kind of do something to work on that, or else you're not going to get the results. So for me, I would, the question is if they say started when I was 5, is the 5-year-old safe? No, sweet as. Okay, get them up out of the scene, wash that scene away as if it never was, gone.
Okay.
And then we'd do because all our focus is on clearing the emotion, not clearing the event. Because you can't clear events.
Right.
I know there might be magic techniques where we can dissociate a memory so far away that the person can't touch it. But I don't believe it helps, because I had a girl say to me that didn't know anything about, she didn't know anything about hypnosis, nothing about CBT, nothing about any of the stuff that we do. And she said to me, when I think about what happened to me when I was young, it's like I'm watching it over there on a movie and it's somebody else. And when she said that, I thought, that's interesting. That must be where we get a lot of our concepts from. It's a natural thing our brain does. But she lives and still does in a trauma cycle, catastrophizer personality type, which means even though that event is over there on the movie screen, far away, her body still is keeping her safe, going through all of the bullshit as if it's still there. So dissociating from that scene and putting it over there, I don't think helps the people, the trauma response. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what we're working on now is clearing the emotional response of stuff that's happened, not the scene itself. And that's where people, I think that's where it's got a bit wrong. So if I go back to the arousal cycle, what's happening in, this is where we get into the GT stuff. And I am going to show you guys something you can do safely with hypnosis without having to do regression, especially for people that haven't trained in it, so that you don't go away and go, oh, now I've heard all this stuff, but what am I going to do? I will show you a way that you can work with this without having to do regression. So, and for the ones that do know how to do regression, if you see me do a demo, you'll understand it anyway, straight away. So so basically, with the golden thread, a lot of the techniques in it is just basic regression. You'll see when I'm doing it, it's like bits and pieces of different protocols, as all protocols are, it's just different. It's just put together in a little bit of a different way so that we can specifically target the implicit memories. So using regression to blah, blah, blah. Hang on, I'll just go to the next one. Now, the big thing is with working with implicit memories is we don't want to target them. So we don't want to do a pre-talk, then do a consult and find out what they want and go through all of their stuff that they've been through, and then do an induction and then try and follow a feeling back. Because that's when we're going to probably hit memories that are stored up in the mind. What we want to do is we want to hit the emotion as soon as it comes in the room. And for me, people sit down on the chair. It's like the universe knows just to bring them in. They'll sit down on the chair and they'll start crying and they'll say, I don't know why I'm crying. I'm like, close your eyes, let's go. Without me even saying, hi, how are you doing? The minute an emotion shows up, no matter where it is in the conversation, we'll slam it there and then. And that's why I call it slamming it, because it only takes 5 minutes. So I might say to someone that's coming for weight loss, okay, so, and this is what I teach people. Okay, so I want you to just start from the beginning. Tell me what you were like when you were young, and like an interview to find out what they want. And they'll start talking to me. Oh yeah, when I was young, I was always pretty normal. I was active. But then, you know, when I was 6 years old, my nana died, and then I start crying. And so I'll stop them the minute they start crying. I don't care if I'm interviewing them, I'll stop them. Close your eyes, where do you feel it in your body? And instantly they'll go, oh, it's a sick feeling in my stomach. And I'll say, okay, focus on that sick feeling in the stomach. Attach that golden thread, let's go back now. Boom. So they go right back. And the reason why they go right back to the very start in that moment is, one, an emotion is hypnosis, heightened emotion is hypnosis. And two, the minute that trigger has come forward, the minute that person, because that person in the chair that said to me, my nana died when I was 6, is not the person that walked in the room. I'm now, the 6-year-old is there. It's what we call sliding. The heightened emotion has come through. The mind's come out to see what's causing the emotion. When the mind has come out, just like hypnosis, instead of it coming out, I'm going, go back to the first time, a direct instruction like sleep, and boom, it follows it back. And that's why we tend to miss explicit memories, because we're actually working with that age, and boom, it goes right back to the start, and it can happen within seconds. If the trigger and the emotion comes through naturally, so we're not poking it, trying to find something. It's what the emotion has come into the room on its own without me provoking it. Does that make sense? So I'll do this on the street if I'm walking with someone and they say to me, oh, you're a hypnotherapist. Oh yeah, this thing happened to me. If they start crying in the street, I'll say, do you want to clear this? Yep, close your eyes for a second and go back, because it only takes, and I'll do it with someone standing up and just clear that shit there and then. They'll still come to me for sessions, but I know what they're coming for is going to be pretty sweet, because we've cleared the emotion when it comes up. Now, if you were to go, okay, she cried when they're 6, and make a note of this, 6 years cried when Nana died, and you tried to target that later, we don't know if that personality is going to come back. Do you know what I mean? We don't know if we can trigger that again. So it's about catching it the minute that personality comes through. And I've never had someone say no, because when I say stop, close your eyes, they don't go, oh, but I haven't finished, because they're in trance. The emotions come up. They're like, I'm crying, close your eyes, go back. It happens instantly. I've even done it at a concert where there was 50 people behind me at a bar, and the lady, we were chatting, and I said I was from Rotorua, and she goes, oh, what do you do? And I said, what I do. This is Nāronga, this was in Gisborne. And she said, I said, I work with people with trauma. And she's like, oh, I had this thing happen. She started crying. I was like, do you want to clear it? So right there, I just put her hand on the shoulder and I said, go back. Boom, with all these people in a line. And honestly, it only took us no time, and she opened her eyes, and the feeling, she couldn't feel it anymore. It was completely gone. And I'll explain how that happens too. So what we want to do is we want to work with the feeling or the emotion as soon as it comes in. Now, an emotion doesn't need to be tears. It might be fear. It might be, you start to notice when an emotion comes in. I see the eyes change instantly. It's like they go glassy, hypno eyes. And then I know, okay, I'm dealing with someone else. And that's when I'll just say, close your eyes, where do you feel it in the body? And if for some reason they say nowhere, I just, okay, and we'll keep on talking. It's not a big deal. But I'm always looking for that change, that slide. And it says here, honor the subconscious, because the emotion might not come back in. You know, when you think a person has been, it says the subconscious communicates in pain, weight, you know, all of these different things. The person might have been waiting a few weeks to come for a session. In my marketing, I clearly say that the way I work is I want to find out why the body's doing what it's doing and then sort the symptoms. And so they might have read that, and then their mind's processing. So by the time they come in, they generally cry pretty quickly, or that emotion will come through pretty quickly. And because the subconscious is just ready to clear it. If they're in my room, they're ready to do the work. So for me, as soon as it happens, it's got there. I see it as a golden ticket, because it is. It's like, it is. You clear that, and you can guarantee everything else you do in the hypnosis is you're gonna get really good results. And that's that whole saying, the client's mind made the problem, so the client's mind knows how to fix it. We're just providing a space for their mind to do it. What I didn't talk about is what we're actually doing in hypnosis with those implicit memories. So what we're doing is, you know how we've got that arousal cycle. People focus so much in regression on going through a scene and clearing the scene and that memory, and let's do something with that memory. It's the memory is not causing the problem. The body's response to that memory is what's causing the problem. And all we need to do is switch off that arousal cycle. So in that moment in time where the arousal cycle happened, it crashed, it didn't complete, and the memory was stored in our bodies. So when we go back to that moment, the person's in trance, the body believes they're back at that moment. And so all we need to do is complete that cycle. And to complete it is fight, flight, understand. And what you'll tend to find is it's emotional resources, it's understanding. And it's just finding that one thing that needs to be said or needs to be done to complete that cycle. And that memory then goes back up to the mind, it goes through the corpus callosum, goes into the front part of the brain, goes back into the past, time-stamped, the signal, the fear response, whatever it was in your body, the heavy heart, the pain in the back, then switches off because all that was a message to get away from whatever trauma that your body was protecting you from. Does that make sense? So all we're doing is we're completing the arousal cycle. That's it. So we don't need to analyze huge events and find out why we were raped when we were 5. You know, we don't have to do that. All we need to do is complete the arousal cycle, switch off that signal the body is giving us. They call it time stamping in psychology. Put that memory back where it belongs in the past and move forward. Now you'll know when you've done it because usually there's tears. Like say they go back to a 5-year-old who got left at kindy. We go back into that moment and the older self comes in and says, hey, it's okay, mum comes back later. You know, and says something like that the kid didn't understand in that moment. Cycle completes. They have a bit of a cry or their body goes, and that's when you test. And so is that feeling in the kid now? No. Okay, bring the kid up out of the scene because that part of that person is locked in that moment. Bring the kid up out of the scene, wash the scene away. Check it again. Is it in the kid? No. Is it in the person? I want you to try so hard to find that feeling. No, it's gone. I can't. And they laugh. You know, especially when you're dealing with someone with social anxiety that hasn't left their house for 5 years and you've switched off that feeling that they get associated with leaving the house. They actually start laughing. They're like, I can't find it. It's so weird. It's for you guys that have had the experience. It's so weird to have something so huge just not exist anymore. And then, of course, we go into the future and do whatever to move them forward because you don't want to leave them just like that. You want to create a future with them. So what our goal is completing the cycle. And that's why when I was looking into what is it about regression that actually does it, it's completing the cycle. And so that's where we go into. We don't need to go through scenes. We don't need to do any of that stuff. We just need to switch off this arousal cycle, get the memory back in the past. EMDR does it, other techniques do it. It's memory reconciliation, it's just getting it back in the past. And that's what our goal is with regression. And that's why we can do it safely. And like I said with Persis, if there was any question that I was going into big T trauma, it'll be the first question is, are you safe? No, okay. And we will finish that arousal cycle from a different space away from that moment. A lot of the time when we're working with, when we're going back under 7, 9 times out of 10, all that little kid needs to hear is this is not your shit. This is mum stuff, this is dad stuff, this is not your shit. The minute they hear that, you know, mum and dad are fighting, and they say, well, actually, this is not about you, the cycle completes. you know, and it's not even about the understanding for the child. It's not even about us as therapists therapizing it or whatever. It's actually just completing that cycle and getting the message in the past. The therapy happens after, you know, we've got a couple of sessions to get them where they want to go. That's where we can do all the chatting. You know, right now, this is just getting rid of that trauma cycle, turning it off. So that's what our goal is. So for people that do regression, the keys are slam it when it comes in, like, and you'll see, I'll do a demo and you'll understand how I'm doing it. Slam the emotion as soon as it comes in the room. Don't expect it to come back later by triggering it. And implicit memory will only show up when it's the right time. If for some reason the person isn't in a safe situation, say at home or something, I don't believe in implicit memory, that the memory tied up with that will show up, because it still needs to protect the person. So it's not something you can force to have happen. It's not a protocol and you just do this and everything's fine. When I work with weight loss, I usually have to do golden thread heaps of times with people because there's layers. And when someone's nervous system is so wired and the body presents trauma with weight, there's quite a lot of stuff that we need to clear for the nervous system to release that need of protection. So sometimes I need to do lots of work with people on clearing stuff before we start to see a result. And even then, something might happen in their life and their body might switch on that weight response again. You know, we don't know. But another big thing I've put in here for people, when working with this type of memory, I'm not talking about if you're, because I love the protocols where you do target emotions, and the emotions you target are the stuff up here in your mind, and the stuff up here in your mind do need to be worked on, because a lot of explicit memories can be severe trauma, and that's why you go to a counsellor and psychologist and talk, because there is a lot of explicit memories that cause PTSD, you know, that are extreme. You know, massive bad things that happen in our life can be explicit memories, and they do need to be talked through. And I don't work with those. I'll send those people on to someone to talk to. You know, there's people trained to talk people through that stuff. When we're working with these kind of memories, it's very, very important never to name it. So if someone says, my grandma died when I was 5, you don't say, where is that sadness sitting in your body? Because it's not sadness. It's a memory that's coming through. It's a personality that's coming through. The minute you call it sadness, your blooming conscious mind is going to come in and go, oh, where does sadness sit? Isn't that supposed to be in my heart, but I'm feeling it in my tummy? That's when we're going to get conscious interference. The minute we get conscious interference, we're dealing with the person in the chair again, not the personality in the past. So the minute we try to box it up to being a feeling, calling it anger, sadness, fear, guilt, shame, we're losing the memory. Now, that memory might have anger, sadness, guilt, shame, so many things attached to it, because it's not actually an emotion. It's a signal from your body. It's a signal, hey, you're in danger, get away. It's a memory, you know, that's coming through. So it's really important not to call it a name. So if someone's talking, the emotion comes in and you say, stop, close your eyes, where do you feel it in your body? Don't call it something. And I usually say, what's the sensation? Where is it sitting and what's the sensation? If it had a point, where is it? And I'll say, in my stomach. What does it feel like? It's just a heavy feeling, and I'll stop at that. And from then on, it's the heavy feeling in your stomach. That's it. I'll never talk about it as anything else. It's just the heavy. Go back to where the heavy feeling started. Now, I don't want to say go back to when you lost your grandma, because what you might find was losing the grandma was a subsequent event that it might actually go back to 2 when the first time they were left in their cot. And that's actually where the implicit memory started. And then when the grandma died, the emotion got bigger. So that's why you don't even want to target. Like say when you're doing people, if they come, they say, I've just gone through a breakup and they start crying, I wouldn't say go back to the first time, go back to your breakup, because you can guarantee that that's a story that's happened heaps. So it's about just sticking from now on. I'm talking about a heaviness in the tummy that end. It's nothing else. Yeah, does that make sense? Yeah. So what I might do is just do, just slam some people if they want it. And you can just watch. If anyone has something. Now, this is going to be a little bit different to if I was doing it in the clinic, because doing it in the clinic is authentic. Someone's coming in to see me because there's something wrong, right? I see Helena, I'll do it in a minute. So cool. So someone comes into the clinic, they've got a symptom, they're stressed out, they're pissed off, they want this done, they want to lose weight. It's very real and very authentic. So going back, the emotion that will come into the room is very strong and very real. When we do it in class or when we're doing it as demos, we're triggering that feeling. So it's not as easy to get an implicit memory to come through. Does that make sense? But in saying that, I can still do really good demos in this kind of situation if a feeling is really present. Yeah. So if you did do this with a client, it's really easy compared to doing it, practicing it on people by trying to trigger something. All right, so I'm not going to spotlight you. I'll just get you to unmute. Yeah. Okay, so how do you say your name again?
Helena.
Helena, I didn't want to pronounce it wrong. Okay, so you've got something that you want to work on?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so can you bring the feeling up naturally? Or do you need to talk about it to get it to come up?
Well, the thing is, and it's not really, I guess, a feeling, but maybe it is. So it's like around that weight issue.
Yeah.
And it's just like the last, few kilos. And I can lose them if I do a challenge, and
Yeah.
it's no problem. But honestly, the minute I stop the challenge, I go straight back up. But I find myself, like, when I should be doing something, like I'm a massive procrastinator, and I'll quickly sometimes just go and eat something, and it's almost like my mind's like, oh well, you're busy.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Okay, so close your eyes. So when you think about the stuff that you're telling me, so when you think about how how the weight always comes back on, that you procrastinate, you find yourself eating when you maybe shouldn't be eating, where does that come up in your body? Where do you feel that in your body? Just the thought of doing that.
just around here.
Yeah. What do you call that? Yeah. So your chest?
Chest, yeah.
Yeah. And what does it feel like in your chest?
Maybe dread.
Dread. Okay. So when you say dread, is it like a heaviness? Is it a lump? Well, what kind of sensation is it?
Yeah, heaviness.
Okay. So I want you to focus on that heaviness. As I count 1 to 5, I want you to make that heaviness as strong as you can. Just really focus on that heaviness. For us today, we're going to make this really strong, just to connect in it with a 1, really focusing on that heaviness in the chest, with a 2, 3, really focusing on 4, 5. And now I want you to imagine there's a golden thread attached to that heaviness that goes back through your past to the very first time you felt it. So just following that feeling back, younger and younger. When you're there, just letting me know. Following that feeling younger and younger, all the way back to the first time you felt that heaviness in your chest. Whatever comes up is right. Whatever pops up in your mind.
Okay.
Yeah. So how old are you in that scene?
6.
6. Okay. So and just in a few words, what's giving the 6-year-old the feeling? Just in a couple of words.
maybe insecurity.
Insecure. Okay. So now what I want you to do is I want the you now just to drift into that scene with the 6-year-old and give her a big hug. And let her know that you're there with her. And as you look at her, what is it that she didn't know in that moment? What is it that she needed to know in that moment that she doesn't know to help this feeling go away?
I think she probably doesn't know that. She probably doesn't know that that money doesn't grow on trees, or that that she couldn't just assume. Do you want me to talk about the actual scene that I'm seeing?
Yeah, just more what she didn't know. So what's making her feel insecure?
Yeah, I think it's that there's a lack of money.
Yeah. So what I want you to share with her what she needs to know in that moment. What does she need to know for that feeling to go?
That it's okay to share, and it's okay to leave something.
Yep, so let her know that. The little 6-year-old, it's okay to share, it's okay to leave something. What else does she need to know?
That it's temporary.
Yep, so let her know that. And so why is she feeling insecure?
I think because she got into trouble.
Okay, so what does she need to know about getting into trouble?
Probably that it wasn't a personal thing, like it was probably the parents' fear.
Okay, so I want you to let her know that it wasn't personal to her, that it was the parents' fear. How does she feel hearing that? That it wasn't actually about her.
Yeah, I think she knows that.
Yeah. So what I want you to do is attach a cord between her and her parents. And I want you to imagine that any stuff she's taken on from that moment, the parents' fear, just any stuff from that moment, I want you to imagine it being drawn out of her body, because that's not her stuff to carry. So I want you to imagine it being drawn out of her body. It's not her stuff. Some people feel it like a heaviness or a thick black lug. When it's completely out of her body, let me know.
Okay.
And then I want you to cut that cord and fill that beautiful 6-year-old girl with a golden light, a light of unconditional love. It just flows through her, just filling up any parts of her where that yuck stuff was sitting, to the point that she's almost glowing. And then let me know how she's feeling, that little girl.
Yeah, later.
Righto. And as you look at her, what's happened to that feeling in her chest, that heaviness in her chest? Is it there or has it gone?
Yeah, it's gone.
Beautiful. So now I want you to get that little 6-year-old and I want you to bring her up out of the scene and put her into your heart. And I want you to wash that scene in the past. Just drift it away because you're not 6 anymore. And then from up above, I want you to scan your body and see what's happened to that feeling. The heaviness in your chest, is it there or has it gone?
Gone, yeah, gone.
Okay, so now I want you to drift into the future past today, maybe a few weeks from now, and just tell me what's different about you now that that feeling's gone. What's different about you?
I have a very clear understanding that that I have an abundant life now, and I don't have to have this very limiting belief around food.
Yeah, beautiful. So just notice how that feels, and then come back into the room and open your eyes. Awesome. Now just checking on that feeling.
Yep.
Gone?
Gone.
Beautiful. Boom. Yeah. Cool. So any questions?
Thank you.
You're welcome. Pretty easy. So the focus is just to find that one thing that switches off that feeling, whatever that may be. And a big thing with working with the younger age is that you need to work with a 6-year-old. So when I work with people that are spiritual and we go back to a 5-year-old, what they'll do is they'll say, there's a bigger picture, and you know, your higher self is with you, guiding you, and blah, blah, blah. But all they want is their lollies back that their brother took. And if you actually had a packet of lollies and you gave it to them in the regression and they got their lollies back, the feeling would go. So it's really important that when you're working with a 5-year-old, the person that's talking to you is a 5-year-old. So the understanding has to be that of a 5-year-old. And so with Helena, the big thing there was it wasn't actually about her. You know, that was apart from all the other stuff that went on about money and stuff, the key was that this wasn't a personal thing, you know what I mean? So, and that's the understanding that made a kind of switch around that time from what I remember. So it's, and when you are guiding the conversation with the younger one, especially if you're working with hypnotherapists or spiritual therapists, get them back to the age, get them talking at an age appropriate, 5-year-old appropriate. If it's a 2-year-old, if it's a 14, 13-year-old, make sure that the understanding is what the understanding is needed at 13, not now. If you talk in now language, you ain't going to clear that feeling. And I did something there with the cord cutting. We probably don't need to do that. But the reason why I do it in the golden thread is because a lot of the time the stuff that we carry is not ours, the thoughts and our ideas. We know in the first 7 years of life we learn through our parents' ideas, beliefs, experiences, the people around us. And I think that that is something that we really, it's good for us to understand. So when I do, so if someone does say, this is actually mum's stuff, it's not mine, I will actually attach a cord to mum and get them to drift out any of mum's stuff. But the key there is not so much the drifting of the stuff, it's what I say. And I say, this is not your stuff to carry into that. It's time to let it go. This is mum's stuff. I never give it back to mum. And if there's a good relationship between mum and the child now, I'll say, just understanding we're not giving it back to mum, we're just putting it in the cord. But she does not need to carry this, and you don't need to carry this stuff anymore. This is mum's experiences. It's not yours. It's time to let it go. So that is a little bit of therapy in there, but I'll always do that if the child has taken on stuff that isn't theirs. So a 6-year-old taking on, you know, say money stuff or whatever, or can't have something, that's not, it's just stuff that's going on for the parents, and we don't need to have that mindset. And that's a mindset, like you said, now you feel abundance, now you can feel abundance. It's just because at that moment there was a bit of programming going on of there's not enough, there's a lack in the world. So, and that's not, doesn't need to be your experience, even if it is others. So it's about clearing that belief system, and the way you clear it is just, this is not your shit to carry, man, you let it go. And I do that a lot if it's narcissistic mothers. I hear that a lot at the moment, or fathers, but especially mums at the moment. But I do a lot of clearing out of, you know, and a lot of the understanding is mums just mum's going through a hard time. This is her stuff. You don't need to take this on. As kids, we also try to make it our responsibility to keep our parents happy. We think that if mum and dad are fighting, if I'm happy and perfect and dancing around, that it's my responsibility to make the household good. So it's about clearing that out, just with the understanding that, hey, this is not your stuff anymore. But at the end of the day, no matter what you do there, it's just about switching off that cycle. And it can be as simple as go into the scene, get them out of the scene. You're not 6 anymore. It's just making sure that the feeling is not in the child, the feeling is not in the adult. And there are things to do if, but that's where the training is. If you go up into the scene, or if you're a hypnotherapist, you'll work it out anyway. Because as you can see, it's different techniques all chucked together. It's just done in a way that's quick and in the moment. If there was a little bit left or it moved, there's things you can do for that. But if there is a little bit left in the adult up above, it's usually not related to that child anymore. It's usually their conscious mind believes that the reason why they're doing what they're doing is something related to now. So what I'd normally do then is just work on whatever it is now, because it's just a residual thing and it's more created by the conscious mind. But yeah, so does that make sense? Does anyone else want to go? Yep, okay. Cool. I'm going to pin you. Alrighties. And these are recorded, so I won't get into too much information about what it is. I'll just get you to unmute. So like I said, with a client, you don't want to target. Today we're targeting. I'm saying, hey, do you guys want to go? And then you're thinking, oh, what can I work on? You don't do that with clients. You don't target them. You wait for them to organically come into the clinic. The only time I'd really target one is if I was working with someone for weight loss and just nothing was coming through, then I would be then I'd poke the bear. And the way we do that, the way I teach students to do that, is get them to picture themselves naked and bring up words that associate their body, and you can guarantee you'll get a bit of a trigger, and most of the words will be childlike. Like I'll get someone going, elephant, fat ass, and that these are things that people have said to them, in the past, and then you will get a trigger come up, but I won't do that unless I really have to, because I know that they're staunchly stopping it, then I'll poke the bear. But you don't normally need to poke the bear with clients. We don't do it this way. It will just, clients will come in, they'll start talking, they'll cry, slam it then and then, Okay, Annette.
Yeah, I'm going to cry already.
Okay, close your eyes then. We don't need to know what it is. Where do you feel it in your body?
Yeah, my chest, left-hand side.
Yeah, and what does it feel like?
I'm just sad.
Sad. Okay, is there a sensation that goes with it? Is it a heaviness or a lump or a tingling or?
Yeah, yeah, lump, I suppose. It's just sitting there. Heaviness.
Heaviness, okay. So just focus on that heaviness. It is quite strong, but just because we're doing it like this, I'm going to make it a bit stronger. So focus in on that heaviness in your chest with a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, really focusing on it, and then attaching that golden thread and going back. Just following that heaviness back. It's younger and younger, all the way back to the moment that heaviness was put in your chest. When you're there, letting me know. Following it back. Beautiful. How old are you?
Yeah, I'm in my 40s.
Yeah. Just in a few words, what's giving you that feeling?
Oh, my daughter's flying out of the country.
Okay. Beautiful. So, Annette, I want you to drift into the scene and be there with that younger you. And give her that big hug. Let her know that you're with her. What does she need to know in that moment?
I don't know, it's just, she just feels like she's been left behind, left.
Yeah, she feels like she's being left. I want you to ask that 40-year-old you, or the 40s, is this the first time she's felt this feeling? Just check in and ask her, what does she say?
Yeah, maybe, no.
Okay.
There's been a lot of time, yeah.
Okay, so what I want you to do is I want you to hold her hand and I want you to follow that feeling back younger and younger. Follow that feeling back younger and younger. All the way back to the first time. The memories open up when you work with implicit memories. You'll get a line going back a lot of the time. So just following it back to the first time, the very first time you felt that heaviness in your chest.
Yeah, I can't find it.
Okay. So we'll do something a little bit different. And what I want you to do now is I want you to imagine pulling that heaviness out of your chest and holding it in your hand. What does it look like?
Just, yeah, it's just grey.
It's grey. Does it have a, so it's just grey. If it had a voice, is it saying anything in it?
It's just loneliness.
It's just loneliness.
Like, you're on your own.
You're on your own. So when you hear you're on your own, is it your voice or is it someone else's?
Oh, it's only, I feel abandoned, they've left me.
If you left.
I've been there for Jesse's left me and Storm.
So as you look at I'm actually gonna oh no, I won't keep going. So as you look at that grey Annette, and it's a feeling of abandonment, as you look at that voice where it says they've left me, does it have an age?
Yeah, maybe young now, young.
Yeah, give me an age, just whatever age pops into your mind.
3.
3, okay. So now I want you to imagine that 3, that grey, turns into a beautiful little 3-year-old Annette. So she's standing in front of you and I want you to give her a big hug. She's 3, I want you to pick her up. And I want you to cuddle her. What does that little 3-year-old need to know? For one, I want you to let her know that you are with her always. From today on, she is never alone because you are always going to be with her. She's always going to be with you, that beautiful little 3-year-old. What does she need to know, Annette, to let that feeling go? The heaviness go.
That you are important.
So I want you to let that beautiful little girl know that she is important. What else?
That you're seen.
Yeah. And I want you to look at her and I want you to let her know that you see her. And as you look at that beautiful little 3-year-old, what do you see? What are her good qualities?
Oh, she's cute.
Yeah, she's cute. What else?
Yeah, just quiet.
Yeah, she's quiet. Tell her she doesn't have to be quiet. Tell her from now on she can be louder. What else?
Yeah, I just think she's conforming,
Yeah. What does she need to know about that?
Well, people don't control you anymore.
Let her know that from today on, no one does. Tell her that from today on, she's in charge. How does she feel about that?
Yeah, strong.
What does that 3-year-old want to do?
Just be happy.
Yeah. And as you look at her, how's that feeling in her heart for the 3-year-old?
Yeah, it's feeling good.
Is it gone?
Yeah.
Beautiful. So I want you to, because you're not in a scene, Annette, I want you just to take that 3-year-old and place her into your heart because she is with you from today onwards. She's not 3 anymore. And as you know, that 3-year-old's happy. So there might be a little 3-year-old personality that comes out in you that wants to maybe dance and play. And as you know, you might see colours brighter. All of the little things, 3-year-olds are quite creative. You might find a little creative streak come out. You might want to go out and do things more, having that little 3-year-old with you. So I want you to feel that feeling of that 3-year-old flow through your body, Annette. And let me know how you're feeling.
Yeah, just like her, and I feel that carefree part of her.
Beautiful. And that feeling in your heart?
Yeah, it just feels a lot lighter. Yeah, it's gone. That heaviness isn't there.
Okay. So now if we go into the future, I'm going to get you to go 6 months into the future. Annette, what's different? Tell me about your life in 6 months.
On track. It's on track, and I'm actually doing what I want to be doing.
Yeah.
The doors have opened. Yeah.
Yeah. And who's around you?
It's got lots of good support. Feel like there's maybe some new people coming in.
Awesome.
Yeah.
How does it feel having that support?
It's good. I've been isolating myself, so no good.
Okay, feel what it's like to have that support. Feel what it's like to be on track, and just focus on that feeling, and then open your eyes. Awesome. And now just check in with your body, check in with that feeling. Feeling good?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Oh, awesome.
Thank you.
Cool. Oh no, sorry, I'm just going to unpin you. Sorry. Okay, so that's a bit of a demo of, you know, when you do learn the golden thread, if you do it, or if you guys know how to do this stuff anyway, that's a different technique I'd do if someone struggles to get the age out as well. Now, I just showed you a little demo of symbols. So for people that aren't ready to do hypnosis, do regression, because what I didn't want to do today is just go, hey, there's this technique you can do. I'm going to talk all about it, but I'm not going to show you because it's pretty stink. So, and if you do want this scripted out, I actually teach it in the diploma. So if you do want the symbols, the printout, just message me and I'll flick it to you. And for those of you who, you guys probably, the hypnotherapists will already know how to do this. I didn't create it. I don't even know where it came from. It's probably an old NLP thing. But basically, the quickest way, if you want to try and work with implicit memories when they come into the room, so say someone does start, the easiest way, so someone starts talking, an emotion comes up, they start crying, you do the same thing. Just stop, close your eyes. Where do you feel it in your body? And they'll say, it's in my heart, it's a heaviness. Just get them to imagine pulling it out and just get a color for it, get a shape, just so that the brain can give it a representation, right? And from there, it's just making sure you don't put it back in the body. You know, this is where hypnotherapy techniques come in, and you guys, everyone watching this that does hypnotherapy will know what to do from here. But it's just changing it, and it might be as simple as, what do you want to do to that black rock to let it go today once and for all? Because at the end of the day, the therapist is not changing this. The client's brain and body and is making the changes. So we don't even need to be a part of it, really. We're just guiding it. So say the feeling did come into the room, it was really strong, you got them to pull it out, they said it was a black rock, and you said, what do you need to do with that black rock to completely let this feeling go once and for all? They say, I want to throw it away. And I'm like, throw it away, but when you do, make sure it explodes and disappears so you can never feel it again. And they might just throw it away. And then I will get them to replace it so that they don't have a feeling of emptiness. You know, okay, now I want you to imagine that a beautiful light is coming in your body and filling that area up now with unconditional love or light or whatever you want to say. And then the key is to check in. Okay, now let me know what's happened to that feeling. Is it there or has it gone? It doesn't seem to work as well doing symbols because we aren't working with the age. We aren't, you know, so you might not get a definite gone, but you're going to get some form of response. It'll lessen at least heaps, you know. Sometimes it will just switch off, you know. But like I said, if that's what I teach people to do in the diploma, because when they start learning about implicit memories and stuff, they're like, oh, but we're not actually learning how to work with them. So this is one way you can kind of target them. Like I said, if the feeling doesn't completely turn off, don't worry about it. You've lessened it. You know, you've taken a bit of the edge off it, which is going to help a lot. In the script, if you do ask for it, when you pull it out, you can ask if it's got a voice. And if it says, yes, it's yelling at me that I'm horrible, I'd say, whose voice is it? And they'll say, it's Mum's voice. And I'll be like, sweet, well, that's not yours. Throw it into the corner of the room. What does it look like? It looks like Mum. Okay, sweet as. Well, that's not actually your stuff. It's Mum's stuff. So I want you to imagine there's a light over there and I want you to send that Mum to the light. And as it goes, just imagine any stuff that's not yours being drawn out of your body. When it's gone, let me know. Okay, fill the body up with light or whatever. Open your eyes. Tell me what's happened to that feeling that's gone. So in the script, that's what it's got, because a lot of the time, the stuff that we carry in our life is not ours. It's not ours. It's been put there. It's words, it's experiences. And what the mind does is, you know, when you bring it out of the body and you say, does it have a voice, whose voice it is? That's when you'll be like, you know, it's not mine. Okay, well, that's not your shit. Throw it in the corner, let's get rid of it. Pull the person up. And you'll find the feeling completely goes. Or if it's my voice, then you just change the feeling. That's just a quick way to work with it so that you don't leave here going, oh, well, that was cool, but how is it going to help me at all? Do you know what I mean? So if you do want, does everyone understand that? Just changing it? Pretty straightforward? Yeah. If you do want that script, like I said, just message me and I'll flick you a PDF of just doing it easily with symbols. Cool. Does anyone else want to be slammed, or are we? No. Cool. All right, then I'll leave it at that unless there's any more questions.
Chime in if you like.
Yeah.
Two issues that I got.
Yes.
I don't know whether this falls into the category, but one is bad temper, and another one is kind of like memory gaps. I lose track of what the hell I'm talking about. It's halfway through a sentence. It's been going on for probably 5-7 years now.
Yeah. So with your do you want to work on it?
Say that again.
Are you wanting to work on it?
The temper for the
Yeah.
brain.
I'll just do the temper.
Yeah, okay, just do the temper.
If we can bring it up. Okay, so close your eyes. So when you say temper, can you go back to the last time that you felt quite angry?
Probably the last time I dropped something on the floor or kicked my foot.
Okay, so when you think about dropping that thing on your floor, can you bring that feeling up in your body that you had?
Yeah.
Yeah, where do you feel it?
Back of the head.
Back of the head. So what kind of feeling comes up in the back of your head?
Stress, tension.
So you get a really tense feeling in the back of your head. Can you feel that now, just by thinking about it?
Yep.
Okay, so I want you to make that as strong as you can. I want you to really focus on that tension in the back of your head. Think about whatever you need to think about to make it really strong. Get yourself really, really there. As I count 1 to 5 with a 1, 2, 3, really feeling it, 4, 5. Now attaching that thread to that feeling that goes all the way back to the first time you felt that tension in the back of your neck. When you're there, just letting me know. So really focusing on it and going back younger and younger to the first time. Your mind will open up. The first time you felt that tension in your neck. Just going back. Just letting me know what comes up.
I can't say I could feel the tension, but I can certainly remember at a young age when I really lost my temper very badly.
Okay, how old?
Possibly early teens.
Okay, I want you to go into that scene with the early teens, you in front of you. So the little John's in front of you. And I want you to look at him and ask him if this is the first time that feeling was there. What does he say?
Yes.
Okay, so I want you to give him a hug and let him know that you're there with him. What does he need to know so he never has to feel this feeling again?
That he's not as useless as he thinks he is.
Yeah. So let him know that he's not useless. What else does he need to know?
Can he get anywhere bending my bicycle or not?
So let him know that that behavior is not going to help him. What does he need to know though in that moment just to completely let that feeling go?
I need to pull my head in when I feel frustrated.
Yeah. What is it about that moment that's making him so frustrated? What's going on for him at that time that he needs to know about? We don't need to know, but what is it that he, as you look at him, he's frustrated. What does he need to know? What does he need to know about that event? So he needs to know that he's not useless.
Yeah. And the behavior gets one nowhere.
Yeah.
Causes more damage and more problems in my life.
Yeah. But if you even go back before the behavior, just when that feeling came up that caused the behavior, what did he need to know in that moment? What did he feel to make him so angry?
I can only think that it was the environment that I was growing up in that caused me to possibly be on the edge all the time.
Okay, so what I want you to do is I want you to imagine a cord attached between him and the people in their environment that was causing him to have those feelings. And what I want you to do, John, is I want you to just draw out any of that stuff that teenage, that young you was just holding on to that's not his, you know, all that stuff that's happening around him, it's not his stuff. All the stuff that's been causing him to be wound up, it's not his stuff. Whoever's around him, they're going through things, they're experiencing things, but he doesn't need to carry that stuff anymore, ever. It's time for him to let that stuff go. And as you do, just let him know that it's not his stuff. When it's completely out of his body, you'll feel it. It's a heaviness, it'll leave. It's not his. When it's completely gone, let me know.
Yeah, it's gone.
I want you to cut it. And I want you to fill him up with that beautiful light and let him know that he is perfect just the way he is. He's just a beautiful young kid doing what he does. And as you look at him, do you see a boy that's worthy of having a good life?
Yeah. Yep.
Do you see a kid that's lovable?
Yes.
Yeah, and I want you to tell him that. Tell him that he's perfect, he's just fine. And as you look at him now, how is he feeling?
relaxed and chuffed.
It's good. So I want you to get him up out of the scene because he's not there anymore. He's not 12 or however he was. I want you to pull him up out of that scene and wash him away. Not wash him, sorry, wash that scene away. Bring him up with you because he's going to come with you now. He's not there anymore. He doesn't have to be tense anymore. And from up above, I want you to look in and just check in on that feeling in him. Is it there or has it gone?
Gone.
Beautiful. So I want you to put him in your heart. And once again, like I said with Annette, you know, when that 12-year-old comes and hangs out with you, sometimes it gives you a bit of a new lease on life. It gives you energy. Some of the things that he wants to be doing, some of his energy you might find comes into you now instead of being stuck in the past. Does that make sense? Yeah. Okay. So now I want you just to scan through your body and see what's happened to that feeling.
It's not there. Feels light.
Beautiful. So now I want you to go into the future and just notice what's different about you. Maybe just a couple of weeks now that you don't have to have that feeling anymore. What's different about you?
A lot brighter, a lot happier, a lot more relaxed.
Beautiful. And I want you to feel that, feel lighter and happier. And then bring that beautiful feeling back in the room. And open your eyes. Awesome.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Very cool. Alrighty, guys. I better love you and leave you. Yeah, and I hope that was cool. And for most of you that do it, and for the experienced hypnotherapists who know that anyway, yeah, I hope it's a good little bit of a refresher. Yeah, and if anyone has any questions about the stuff, especially the brain stuff, that's what I find really cool, really fascinating. You can get a hold of me and we can have a chat. But I'll catch up with you guys next time. And for the members, like I said, we're going to talk resources. So have a think about that too, what we could all share about that just to help our clients. Awesome.
Thank you so much. That was wonderful.
You're welcome.
Absolutely.
And I'll catch you all later.
Thank you.
See ya. See ya.
Thank you. I think that was great.
Awesome. Thank you. See ya.
Bye.